this is going to be a fun one. This is going to be an important one. It's titled, "You Are Guaranteed to Lose Unless You Do This." And we're going to talk about a couple different things here. But the main purpose today, the reason why I'm making this video, is to just kind of demystify Bitcoin. Because there's a lot of people out there, most people do not understand Bitcoin. There's also some people who feel the need to, I don't know what level of arrogance they have, to not spend any time actually understanding and studying Bitcoin, but want to share it with other people on the internet, their opinion on it. And of course, Bitcoin's dropped 50% in the last 6 months. So I've been receiving a lot of hate comments in my videos, but it's made my skin a little bit thicker, and I actually appreciate them. They're going to own Bitcoin one day. They'll just have much less of it. And so what I want to do in this video is actually explain why Bitcoin, why most people fail in Bitcoin. Actually, you know what? Let's just bring this up. So first of all, hello to both channels, 88 Sats Radio, the underrated channel. I'm going to share this on both because, again, I believe this is a very important video. It might be a little bit longer. And I just want to say, though, whoever gets to the end of this video, I just want to give you some props because there's not a whole lot of people out there who have the ability to think about this stuff for more than 30 minutes. And if you do, I really believe that you're going to be rewarded significantly in the future. And that's what this is for. Bitcoin is for the future. It's not something you're going to buy today and flip into something much more in a month from now. I mean, you might, but that's not the purpose here. And what I want to share here is obviously the strategy that I'm going to talk about, but also I'm going to talk about how most people lose in Bitcoin. Why so many people out there have such a sour taste in their mouth towards Bitcoin. I'm going to talk about this $1,000 challenge too. I probably should have started the video with that. I would have probably had more people here at this point of the video, but I'm going to have a $1,000 challenge that's going to expire in exactly 10 years from now on a leap year. And that's kind of important because actually today, when I'm filming this video, we've had our guy, Arnie. Anybody who's been watching the channels here knows Arnie. We've had him for exactly 2 years. We got him on a leap year in 2024, February 29th, 2024. And so this $1,000 challenge is actually going to expire also on a leap year in 10 years from now. So I'll talk about that. And I'm also going to share the simple barbell strategy that literally anybody can do. And again, if you can focus here for 30 minutes or come back and rewatch this or whatever you need to do, it's going to be very little risk with tremendous upside. That's what my promise is going to be here. Very little risk with tremendous upside. Almost no risk. And I'm going to explain why. So last time I said that, even though I was telling people to buy $1 worth of Bitcoin per day, YouTube took the video down. So there's no promise of anything here. I'm not saying that this is going to happen. I'm just saying that there's a tremendous amount of upside if you do this. So here we go. This is how most people lose Bitcoin. And this is why a lot of people have such a sour taste in their mouth about Bitcoin. Number one, I would say there's two reasons really. Number one is that they've been told to hate Bitcoin. Why? Because the people who control the fiat dollar system, the fiat financial system, they do not want Bitcoin to succeed. Three main reasons. Number one, they cannot control it, they cannot print it, and they cannot stop it. And so what they do is they try to spread all this FUD, we call it, fear, uncertainty, and doubt about Bitcoin. And because most people haven't spent more than 5 minutes looking into Bitcoin, they just kind of take it as gospel. They don't really realize they're paying attention to the mainstream narrative, but that's the only exposure they've had to Bitcoin before. And so that's the lens that they see it through. And then two is they've been burned by Bitcoin. They've been burned by Bitcoin. And so here's what it is. Number one, they're chasing green candles. So when the price of Bitcoin, it's a very volatile day-to-day asset, which means that there's weeks and months where it's just running up and it doesn't look like it's ever going to stop. And that's where a lot of people buy in. But the higher you buy in when it's running up in terms of fiat dollars, the more likely it is that it's going to start coming back down. So the higher you buy in at, and it was actually Forrest on our Maple Bitcoin show yesterday, he made that point, which makes a lot of sense. The higher you buy it at, the more likely it is that you're going to see some short-term downside. And that's where a lot of people get scared out of Bitcoin, is because they buy it with the promise that it's never going to turn around. And then, of course, it does. for a lot of reasons. I think the main reason why Bitcoin is so volatile at this point is because so few people actually understand it. And it's very mispriced. It's very misunderstood. And so people are trading it like a stock, which is kind of the third one here, thinking of Bitcoin like a stock or a speculative asset, where we've been trained since we were very young to buy low, sell high. And so that's how they see Bitcoin, is this thing that's just a stock. It goes up and down, but they don't really know what Bitcoin is. And I actually saw a really good quote today that I wanted to share with people here, which was, there are two types of people: those who think Bitcoin is a scam, and those who understand the difficulty adjustment. So if you are, unless you fall in this camp here, you probably think Bitcoin is a scam, because at the surface, it actually does appear to be a scam. And I avoided Bitcoin for too many years because I thought it was a scam as well. Everybody starts there. But until you take some time, until you start studying Bitcoin and look about, basically what you're doing when you're studying Bitcoin is you're trying to find out why they're wrong. The people who are talking about Bitcoin all the time, when you first get into Bitcoin, you're either chasing the green candle or you're trying to make sense of it. And you're trying to say, how are these people wrong? And then the further you get into it, you're like, okay, how am I wrong? What am I missing here? But then you finally land on this, the difficulty adjustment. And this is kind of the thing that makes me so certain about the next 10, 20, 50 years and beyond that, is because of this difficulty adjustment. And if you can understand that, not just how it works, not just what it does, but why it makes Bitcoin so resilient. And to me, the only thing that's actually going to be valuable in 50 years from now, the only thing that's going to hold its value against everything else, because of this difficulty adjustment. So the other way that people lose Bitcoin is they're trying to take shortcuts. Their ego says that they need to get one Bitcoin. They need to have as much Bitcoin as their friend. They need to have as much Bitcoin as their favorite YouTuber. So what do? They try to take shortcuts, and then they move too quickly. They move too quickly into areas that they have no idea what they're doing yet, and they lose the keys to their Bitcoin. Or they take leverage. They take on leverage. They take out a loan to buy more Bitcoin because they feel like they need to catch up. And this has everything to do with ego. It's very short-term thinking. And then the next one is this is the big one. This is kind of what we're going to be talking about today. They buy Bitcoin with the money that they're going to need in the short term. So an example of this, and I've done this before. I've been guilty of this. And this is part of the lessons I've learned from being in Bitcoin through the last 6 years, is that people buy Bitcoin with the money that they're going to need in a year from now or 6 months from now. But they think that they're going to somehow, the universe is going to smile down on them and they can turn $2,000 into $10,000. But the universe doesn't work on your timeline. Bitcoin definitely doesn't work on your timeline. And so what people do is they need $2,000. We'll just use an example here. They need $2,000 in 6 months. Maybe they're taking their girlfriend on a trip. They're buying something for their house. They need this $2,000 in 6 months from now. So they throw it into Bitcoin. They think it's like a roulette wheel or a get rich quick kind of thing. And then Bitcoin drops. Bitcoin goes down 50% in 6 months, like we've seen recently. And then all of a sudden their $2,000 turns into $1,000. They're forced to sell because they need that money. And their girlfriend, wife, or spouse is pissed. So I think this is the biggest reason why people lose in Bitcoin, is because they use Bitcoin, or they use their money to buy Bitcoin, and they're going to need that money in the short term. So that's kind of the whole strategy with what we're talking about today, to avoid that. And maybe I'll just kind of start with the end in mind here with this, because this is we'll get back to this probably, but let's take a look at this right now, because this is why I'm so confident in this strategy specifically. And I want to give a shout out here to a guy named Rajat, one of my good buddies. Him and I do, Forrest and myself do a show called Maple Bitcoin every Friday. But it was actually Rajat who came up with this idea of holding Bitcoin, cash, and nothing else. And there's been a couple different iterations of it, and one's called the barbell strategy, which I'm going to be talking through today. But why this works is because you're never going to be forced to sell. You're never going to be in a position where you need to sell your Bitcoin. And therefore, the price of it, the volatility, it becomes irrelevant to you because you don't need to sell it. The next one here is you are buying at every price. With the strategy that we're using here, you're buying either every day or every week. And so with that in mind, the price becomes irrelevant again. You're buying at every price. Doesn't matter what it does. You're actually happier when the price goes down because you can get more Bitcoin for the dollars that you have to allocate to it. And part of the strategy too is you're buying with half of your disposable income, which is why you're never forced to sell, because it's money that you're not going to need today, tomorrow, 6 months from now, at any point. So you take half that, you buy Bitcoin. You take the other half, you put it in cash. And with that in cash, you can take advantage of the opportunities, any opportunities that come up in your life, whether it's a business idea, whether it's a 50% price correction in Bitcoin, you can take advantage of this, because I'll tell you firsthand here, there's no worse feeling of seeing your asset, Bitcoin, drop 50% in 6 months and having zero cash to be able to buy that, to buy the dip, essentially. So you can take advantage of opportunities if you're holding some cash. And the last one here is that you can ease into it and become confident without too much at stake. So again, the main reason why a lot of people fail is because they try to move too quickly. They put in too much too fast. They don't know what they're doing. And they either have to sell it, or they lose their keys, or they get scammed, or something happens. So with this strategy, you can just kind of ease into it, become confident, comfortable, and then at the right stage, you can take self-custody of that Bitcoin and see what makes Bitcoin so powerful. Because that's what it is. That's Bitcoin's real superpower, is the fact that you can take self-custody of it and nobody can take that from you. Nobody can debase you. Nobody can censor you. You're much more free when you have a stack of Bitcoin. And that's what we all want. We don't want more money. We want more freedom. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Okay, so I'm kind of giving away a couple things here, but that's why most people lose. We got through that. So here's my $1,000 challenge. So I want you to leave a comment on this video. And I'm guessing there's going to be more comments in the underrated channel, because last time I shared a video last Saturday is on the underrated channel, I do a Bitcoin video for sats, for Satoshi, Saturday. And so I had a lot of comments on my last video telling me that Bitcoin's a Ponzi scheme, I'm a dummy, all this kind of stuff. So I want you to leave a comment telling me an asset that's going to outperform Bitcoin over the next decade. And the expiry here, as mentioned, is February 29th, 2036. You can keep receipts. I don't know who's going to do it, but I'm going to have some fun with this, because I don't want this to be just a far out thing, that's tricking you into leaving comments here. What I'm going to do is, if you leave a comment saying that I believe that gold is going to outperform Bitcoin over the next decade, I believe real estate, I believe Nvidia, I believe Apple is going to outperform Bitcoin the next decade, let me know. And I'll do a video with your comment and I'll explain why I disagree with you. So that's the idea, is that if you leave a comment and you end up being right, 2036, I'll send you $1,000. And again, it's based on purchasing power here, not the dollar amount. So if they continue to print fiat dollars into oblivion and those dollars become worth nothing, I'll give you $1,000 worth of purchasing power. So whatever that is. What even costs $1,000 nowadays? A TV? A phone? A driver? A hockey stick? I don't know. So I doubt anybody will stick around for 10 years. I hope somebody does. I don't think anybody's going to be right, but this is going to be the fun part here. Is I'm going to do a video on Saturdays for the underrated channel. If you have a guess on what's going to outperform Bitcoin. So here it is. This is the simple barbell strategy, and I'm going to bring up the little visual I have for it, which is this. So the Bitcoin barbell strategy. And so here's your income. This is kind of what this video is focused on, people who are adding value and earning income. So every week or every 2 weeks or however often you get paid, you either do one of two things. That's why I call it the simple. And I'm going to give a shout out to our buddy Matt here right away. But I call it the simple strategy because it really is. You don't need real estate. You don't need tenants. You don't need gold. You don't need anybody to trust with your gold. You don't need a financial advisor. You don't need to be spending hours a day looking at what the latest stock is. Very simple. So I think it's going to be I think this is going to be the most optimal strategy in terms of performance, but I also think it's going to free up so much of your life and so much of your stress. And that's why I love this strategy so much. So either do one of two things. You put into Bitcoin or you put into cash. You don't hold anything else. So this cash part right here, this basically covers your short-term obligations. So you might have 6 months worth of expenses. You might have a year worth, 2 years worth, but it takes the stress out of this. So this is kind of like your stability on this side. And this is your moonshot. This is your long-term moonshot. This is your short-term stability. This is your long-term moonshot. You don't need anything else. And I'm going to explain why here. So if we go back to the spreadsheet here, Simple Bitcoin Savings, I want to give a shout out here. We'll hop back to the internet. This is a book that one of my friends wrote called Simple Bitcoin Savings. We're not sponsored by him. He doesn't even know that I'm doing this. Hopefully he sees and leaves a nice comment. But this is a guy named Matt Willis, and he wrote a book called Simple Bitcoin Savings. And there's been several people in the community who said that they've given this book to their friends and family, and they've actually asked how to buy Bitcoin. And I have the book right here. So I'm going to share this link. I'll have a bunch of links in the pinned comments below for you. But here's the book right here. Simple Bitcoin Savings. It's not very thick at all. It's a very easy read, and it is proving to be very effective. So I'm not asking you to buy it. I want to point this out in case you have any friends or family in your life that you want to give a gift to. Very reasonably priced, very easy to get through. And I'd say the odds of you, we'll say convincing, but not really, just helping your family and friends and people you love understand Bitcoin. And I feel like this is a very effective tool to do that on their own terms. And that's why I actually really like the idea of a book, and who knows what's coming for the future for me. But I like the idea of a very short book, because when you send somebody a video that you watched explaining Bitcoin, even if it's like the perfect video explaining Bitcoin, your friends and family are not going to want it. They're just not. Unless they're ready for it, unless they're open to it, they're just going to ignore that text, that email, however you send it to them. It's going to be a complete waste of your time. But if you get them a book, then it's kind of on their own terms. They don't need to read it today. They don't need to watch it today. They can pick it up when they're ready. It's going to be sitting there for them when they're ready. So what's the cost of this book even, Matt? Before $13. $13. Like, you can get it on Kindle too for like $2 if you want to read it. But $13 for the paperback here. I'd say that's a pretty good investment if you got parents, friends, family who you think need Bitcoin. So there, I just want to give a shout out to Matt there, because it's a great book. I've got through most of it. I just kind of skimmed through some of the chapters. Very, very easy read. Very easy read. And I like that. When you're trying to learn something new, it's always better to be very simple. So the barbell strategy we talked about, I did want to give a shout out to Rajat, because he was actually the one that came up with the cash and Bitcoin idea. And it's funny because a guy named Michael Saylor, I don't know if you've heard of him or not, but he actually adopted this exact same strategy after Rajat. So Rajat front ran Michael Saylor on the cash and Bitcoin idea. So shout out to Rajat, because Strategy recently bought, I think, $2 billion, or they didn't buy, but they allocated $2 billion worth of their reserves into cash for this reason, for the stability of it. And it's kind of crazy to say, because like as a Bitcoiner, what I'm trying to do here is get rid of that fiat system. And so it sounds kind of backwards to say what you need is Bitcoin and cash, but it's the best tool for the job. For, again, the short-term stability on the left side, and the long-term moonshot, the generational wealth over here on the right side. And that's all you need. That's literally all you need. And the reason for that is zero stress. And so we're going to talk about the strategy here. So again, we talked about the barbell thing there. This is for income receivers. So that could be somebody who has a 9-to-5 job. That could be somebody who has a business. That could be somebody who's on a fixed income. But here's kind of the threshold: is you must have or is currently adding value to the world, or a beneficiary of somebody else who created value, if you received an inheritance or something. So here's what you need to do. This is the strategy. You need to start out and you need to figure out what your net income is per month. So whatever paycheck you get from whoever that is, you calculate that. That's the top line. You figure out all your expenses for the month, all the way down. And then you calculate how much you could contribute without you ever needing it. So that's the key here. And that's why this strategy here has zero stress. It's because you're contributing, you're allocating to Bitcoin with money that you're never going to need. And, if you can take a look at some of your expenses and say, okay, I'm going to cut that out every month, even if it's just something so small, that's going to boost your ability to stack here. So you calculate how much you contribute without ever needing it. And then you split that in half. And so you put half it into Bitcoin and you put half it into cash. And if you're too lazy, you could just pick a number and make it work. So a couple ideas for this that I would recommend people to do. And also, I want you to consider sharing this video with any of your friends and family members who are kind of on their way to Bitcoin. I wouldn't waste your time if they're just completely trapped and ingrained in the fiat system. But if they've been asking some questions, if they're kind of curious about it, consider sending them this video, because I really think that this is the best strategy for somebody who's just getting into Bitcoin. And even for those who are been in Bitcoin for years now, I think that this strategy should be adopted. So you got a couple ideas. You could do something like $5 a day. You could do something like $25 a week, but it's based on this. So let's say that at the end of every week, you have $100 that you don't really need. You might go out for a couple lunches every week just to get rid of it, or you might go out every week, or you might buy something online just to get rid of that. I've been there before. I worked at a fiat job for just about 10 years as a CPA, and I had no money in my bank account. Every time I get paid and I was about to be paid, I would find a way to get rid of that. So I know for a fact that everybody here has a little bit kicking around or a little bit that they can find. And that's what we're talking about here. So $5 a week. So let's say that you had, in this case, you'd have calculated that maybe you have $200 a month that you can allocate without needing it for the next foreseeable future. So you split that into $200, cut that in half. That half of that goes to Bitcoin, which is $100. And 4 weeks every month, that would be something like $25 a week. And so what you do here is you use that calculated amount and you buy Bitcoin every day. You automate it. You buy Bitcoin every single day. Or if the exchange that you can use only has weekly, then you do weekly. But I would try, if you can, to do it every day. And so you set up a recurring buy. And what that means is you set this up on your exchange and you connect it to your bank account. So what you have to do is you have to go into your Bitcoin exchange, something like River, Bitcoin Well, and you put in no, you actually don't put your banking information into there. You take the information from the Bitcoin exchange. I should write this down. I got a bunch of videos on this, but I want to save you time here. If you're watching this, I don't want to make you jump here and there and everywhere. So basically what happens is with recurring buys, this is basically the very high level version. So you enter your you enter your exchange info into your online banking. So in other words, if you're using River would provide you with like the banking number, the name that you put in there. River provides you with about 3 different things, and you copy and paste that, and you set up a new payment as a payee in your online banking. So I should maybe put that into your online banking as a payee. And so then basically, depending on the frequency that you decide, whether it's hourly, daily, weekly, your bank will pull money. River will pull money from your bank account and automatically buy Bitcoin with that. So you enter your exchange information, which is going to be provided with River or Bitcoin Well. You copy and paste that, and you set that up in your online banking as a payee. It's very simple to do. Very, very simple. If you've ever sent a bank transfer, if you ever set up like a credit card that you need to pay every month, it's the exact same process. But the exchange will give you that information when you go to set it up. So you set up a recurring buy, and either number one, you leave it on the exchange. If you're using something like River, you can just hold it there until you get to a threshold here, which is right here. Or you can send it to a Lightning address. And if you need a Lightning address, you can use Wallet of Satoshi or Rizful. Again, I'm going to have all these links, everything I'm talking about here, in the pinned comments here. And I might even add it to the description just for good measure. So you have two options there when you're setting up a recurring buy. You don't want to do on-chain because then you're going to create a whole bunch of UTXOs and it's going to be a nightmare. So you either, number one, leave it on the exchange for a while, let it build up there and then move it to a wallet, or you sending it to a Lightning address. And both these take about 2 minutes to set up. You go to walletofsatoshi.com or you go to rizful.com, you generate a wallet, and then you basically paste that address. It's going to look something like this. Like this is my Lightning address, jor@rizful.com. It's kind of like an email address. And so then when you're setting up your recurring buy, if you're sending it to the Lightning address, you would actually put this in there. So when River, I'm just using River an example here. So when River pulls that money out of your bank, because of the information that you provided up here as a payee, River pulls that money out of your bank and it buys Bitcoin and then it sends it to this address, which you obviously have the keys to. You have the login information to this address. So you want to keep that safe. And the other thing here too is you could actually consider leaving your cash portion on River to earn interest on there. I think they pay like 3% in sats. So instead of like setting up a separate bank account or a spreadsheet to track all this stuff, you could actually just leave cash on River instead of that. So back to this part here, where you split it in half to Bitcoin, half to cash, you could actually send the full amount to River and put half in Bitcoin, keep half in their cash account there, and actually earn Bitcoin interest on that to increase your stack. So number 4 here is you could set up you will set up an Aqua wallet or a Bull Bitcoin wallet, and you write down your 12 words. So the reason why you write down your 12 words, and again, I don't expect somebody who's brand new to Bitcoin to understand this, but that's basically your key to your Bitcoin. So if you had an Aqua wallet or a Bull Bitcoin wallet on your phone and something happened to that phone, you would take your 12 words, you'd put it into a new phone, a new wallet, and you'd all of a sudden have access to your Bitcoin again. So you want to make sure that you write down your 12 words because people lose their phone all the time. They get them stolen. So you really want to make sure that you write these 12 words down. That's essentially the key to your Bitcoin. And then you want to find a safe place in your house to hold those 12 words. You don't want to have a picture of it. You don't want to have it in your LastPass. You want to write it down on paper and you want to store it somewhere safe in your house. And then once the amount on your Lightning address here or on the exchange, once it gets to 100,000 sats, that's when you send it to your new wallet here that you set up. So this takes a little bit of work, but this whole process would probably take you like 10 minutes to do start to finish, including signing up for an exchange, setting up a Lightning address or setting up a Lightning wallet, and downloading the Aqua or Bull Bitcoin wallet and writing it down your 12 words. This is a 10-minute thing. And even adding as a payee in your online banking, 10 to 15 minutes. So it seems like a lot. It seems like a really big hill to climb, but it's really, really simple. And then number 7, you repeat forever. So the bonus here is you could actually determine what your desired cash balance is. So let's say you want 6 months of expenses, a year's worth of expenses in cash. And then once you get that, you could actually start putting the excess into Bitcoin at the end of every month. So that's another way to kind of accelerate your stack. Is that if you already have a decent sized cash balance, you're like, I don't want any more cash, this is enough. Then you start putting the excess into Bitcoin. Again, you're not going anywhere else. You're not diversifying here. If you're somebody out there who's watching this and you're like 60, 70, 80 years old and you got a bunch of stuff, this video probably isn't for you. This is for the people who are 25, 30, 35, 40, in the prime income earnings years of your life. This is the strategy. And you're not really in a position to diversify when you're in that strategy. And that's why I really love this, because you got your short-term stability covered and you got the long-term moonshot that is Bitcoin covered. And then you could also set up a separate wallet for storing this excess just in case you need to sell it. In case you want to take advantage of something, an opportunity in the future, you could keep it in a separate wallet. But the DCA here that you're doing, this is your long-term. This is your retirement fund. And again, if you are somebody of that age group who's like 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, you're probably not counting on the government for your retirement. If you have any brain cells left in there, you're probably not counting on the government for your retirement. So that's what this is. That's exactly what you're doing here. You're not trying to get rich next year. You're not trying to do anything crazy with this. This is a very stable, steady, long-term strategy. Okay, so again, why this works. This might make more sense now that we've kind of gone through it all. But you're never going to be forced to sell. So one thing that's happened to me, and this, the main reason why I'm such a proponent of this strategy now, is because I was somebody who is fairly allocated to Bitcoin, which is great when the price is going up. But when the price is going down and you have to sell some of that Bitcoin because that's mostly where you're allocated and you're getting a fraction of what you paid for it, it's pretty tough. It's stressful. And you don't need any more stress in your life right now. So you're never forced to sell because this is, you're buying Bitcoin with cash that you wouldn't otherwise need. This isn't cash that you need to replace your roof with in a year from now. This isn't cash that you need to buy groceries with in a week from now. You know, this is cash that you would otherwise just waste on things. Again, on eating out, on coffees, on online purchases, online clothing, stupid things. Everybody buys them. Everybody's guilty of it, but you're never going to be forced to sell because you're not going to need this money. And plus you got that cash reserve there that if something unexpected did come up, that's what you use your cash for. So you're never forced to sell your Bitcoin. So the price becomes irrelevant and you're buying at every price. So again, when you're doing this strategy, you're actually pumped when the price of Bitcoin comes down. When everybody else is screaming and crying and panicking, you're like, oh yes, the money that I don't actually need right now, I'm getting more real units, more Satoshis for the same amount of dollars. You're buying at every price. Bitcoiners cannot lose. That's the whole thing here is like when Bitcoin's running up, our net worth is up, our purchasing power is up. When it's running down, we're getting paid more every day in terms of real units called Satoshis, the currency that we actually want to hold. And then you're buying it with half of your disposable income. So again, you're never going to be in a stressful position here. And I guarantee that all the people who have such a sour taste about Bitcoin in their mouth is because they've been burned. It's because they over allocated, they over leveraged. They had these expectations of Bitcoin that never came true. And so you're taking the money you don't need, and you're not only just taking that, but you're taking half of that. You're keeping half of it as like an emergency, short-term reserve, and you're putting the other half in a long-term asset here. And so then when opportunities do come up in the future, and they will, you have to be ready for that. And so you have to have some cash, some stability, nothing that's going to go up and down, but something that's fairly safe for the next 6 months. And then you can seize those opportunities when they come up that you wouldn't be able to do if it was trapped in real estate or stocks or even Bitcoin. So that's why I love the cash component of this. And of course, you can ease into it and become confident without too much of your net worth at stake. You don't have to sell everything else and buy Bitcoin and then have no idea what you're doing and then just like lose sleep for 2 weeks. That happens. But that's FOMO. That's chasing. That's not what this strategy is. This is a very long-term, steady allocation here. So this is the thresholds that I would use for anybody who's kind of new to Bitcoin. So I'll just maybe give a real quick of Bitcoin to Satoshi's translation here. So 0.1 Bitcoin, that's 10 million sats. 0.01 Bitcoin is 1 million sats. 0.001 Bitcoin is 100,000 sats. So that's some of the Bitcoin amounts that I've been talking about here in terms of sats. So this is a really easy guide. 1 Bitcoin is 100 million sats. So this is kind of a good, if you need to screenshot that or something, well, don't screenshot that. This is a really easy guide. And then of course you go further, I'll just make it even easier for people here to understand. That'd be 10K sats, 0.00001. That'd be 1K sats. You get the idea. So if you have 0 to 5 million sats or 0 to 0.05 Bitcoin, you're fine in an Aqua wallet or a Bull Bitcoin wallet. Again, You write down your 12 words, you keep it somewhere safe. That's good. You can take any money that you would otherwise spend on a hardware device and you can just buy a Bitcoin with that. Increase this amount. Once you get to 5 million sats, though, that's when I would actually consider getting something like this, a cold card. So this is an offline device. It never connects to the internet. So it stores the key to your Bitcoin in here. And it never touches the internet. It never connects to a computer. It's all generated and stored offline. And when you get your Bitcoin in this, I guarantee you're going to sleep 10x better than you are with an Aqu wallet or a Bull Bitcoin wallet. This is the cream of the crop here, the cold card Q. And then finally, if you have more than 50 million sats or more than half a Bitcoin, that's when you would get into a multi-sig. So that's when you get the Bitcoin away from your house. There's just too much there, too much at stake. So you get the Bitcoin away from your house. You put 3 different devices. It's like you set up like a 2 of 3. So you need 2 keys to come together to move the Bitcoin, 2 out of 3. And therefore you can move it away from your house. You're not reliant on one device. You remove the single point of failure and you sleep much better at night. So that's kind of the thresholds there. And so here's the next steps for anybody out there. Level 1 is set up the daily or weekly recurring buy. Again, even if you're somebody who's been buying Bitcoin already, I would strongly consider setting up a recurring buy. And River actually has something called a supercharged buy. And that's why there's a couple of reasons why I love River. Unfortunately, here in Canada, I don't have access to it. But why I love River, they have the supercharged. And I love this because especially for this strategy that we're using here, you can use supercharged, which means that when the price of Bitcoin drops, so let's say that today the price is $100,000 and you buy Bitcoin, you're buying every day on River, you buy at 100K, $5 worth of Bitcoin. Tomorrow, if the price dropped, I think it's more than like 2%, if it drops to 95K, River would actually pull $10 worth out instead of 5. So when the price is down, the supercharged way to do it is that you actually buy more when it's down. And then on days where it's flat or up, it just buys the normal amount. So you have the supercharge there. They have proof of reserves, which means that they have all the Bitcoin that they have the cash for, essentially. Anybody who has a claim to Bitcoin, they have more than 100% proof of reserves, which is why I feel comfortable telling people to leave their Bitcoin on River until they have 100,000 sats, then they move it to their wallet. And the last one here is earning interest. So that River actually works perfectly for this strategy because you can just send your disposable income to River. You buy half of that in Bitcoin, you leave the other half in your cash account, and you can actually earn like 3.5 or 3% interest on that cash amount. So you can stack sats with cash. And if you're like, well, that sounds too good to be true, Jor, look into how they do it. Most exchanges who take your dollars, they actually invest that somewhere else and keep that interest. But River gives it back to their clients instead of keeping it. So unfortunately, again, it's only available in the US. So in Canada, if you're watching this, a couple other ones I would suggest here, Canada would be like a ShakePay. The UK, you could use something like Kraken. But I love Bitcoin Well too, but you have to be a little bit more advanced to use Bitcoin Well, somewhat. I just don't love recommending Bitcoin Well to brand new people because they don't hold any Bitcoin for you. They make you take self-custody of, which I love overall, but it's not great for like new Bitcoiners, unfortunately. That's kind of, Bitcoin Well is the one you use when you're a little bit more, when you have more skin in the game, when you're more confident and you know what you're doing. Use something like a Bitcoin Well or a Bull Bitcoin. Both these are non-custodial exchanges, which means they don't hold your Bitcoin. They won't hold your Bitcoin. So get that set up first. First thing you should do, regardless of where you're at. Second one here is you check out the free 11-day Bitcoin journey course. So again, I'm going to have links to all this stuff. In the course, I talk about buying, sending, receiving, storing your private keys, best practices. Highly recommend checking out the free 11-day course there. And the last one here is consider joining the Visionaries community. Because with that, especially if you're going to be joining the next couple of days, with that, you're going to have access to over 150 people, Bitcoiners from around the world. You get to learn from them. You get to listen to conversations. You get to do a whole bunch of different stuff. Plus, you get access to all my exclusive content and courses, including the big one, which is Bitcoin School. And Bitcoin School is a different video every single day in 2026. We're on day 59, day 60, I think, today. So I've already done 60 videos, one each day, talking about different topics within Bitcoin. And if you actually join this weekend as a premium annual member, you're going to get a free one-on-one call with me for an hour. And I'm only doing this for the first 8 people. I sent out an email this morning, so we'll have to figure out how this works with the video now too. But I'm only doing this for the first 8 people that join the community here. And other resource I'm going to have in the pinned comments here is Matt's book, Simple Bitcoin Savings. And I'm going to share Rajat's channel. I'll probably put Maple in there too, because the other guy with us, Forrest, he has some really good videos on many different things in Bitcoin. So I'll share the link to Maple Bitcoin as well. So again, if you made it this far, a lot of props to you. I really believe that if you did something, if you start doing this, if you take this seriously and follow this kind of step by step, you're going to set your family up. And that's what it's all about right now, because we're 17 years into this Bitcoin thing. I consider us to be the first generation Bitcoiners here, just like first generation farmers. And that's how I love thinking about Bitcoin too, is like a farmer does. Because when you think about, there's a lot of comparisons here. And even going back to this right here, the what's going to outperform Bitcoin. I'm guessing there's going to be gold, silver, real estate. There's going to be some crazy crypto that has all these fancy things on it. Somebody who's smart will say land. And land probably is the best chance of actually doing that. And, it's funny because Bitcoin is compared to gold a lot, but Bitcoin and gold are nothing alike. They're nothing alike. I'd say the only thing that they have in common is that they're used as a store of value. That's about it. But land, there's only so much land here on this earth. And there's only so much Bitcoin. So I like using the example of land. And so when you think about yourself as a first generation Bitcoiner, just like in the past when our grandparents and great grandparents bought some land and started farming, do you think that they were looking at the prices of their land every day or every 10 minutes and hoping that the value of the land goes up so they can sell next month? No. They were working. They were working the land. They were adding value. They were providing food to the world, to their local community. And they actually wanted to obtain more land. That was their goal. They didn't want the value to go up so they could sell it. They wanted the value to actually stay low so they could acquire more land. They wanted to accumulate more land around their land. That was their idea. And they wanted to be able to pass that on to their kids and keep that land in the family forever. And so I think Bitcoin is the closest thing we have to Bitcoin is land. And so as a first generation Bitcoiner, that's what you want to do. You want to work as hard as you can, provide as much value to the world, store that value in Bitcoin. You don't need to have a bunch of money to buy a big plot of land. You can start with $5 or $10. And you want to acquire more. You want to buy more land in cyberspace. Because I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's a lot of countries, governments, and companies who are going to be looking a lot different in a decade from now. And the world is decentralizing. And there's this whole brand new economy that's forming in cyberspace. And Bitcoin is real estate in cyberspace. And there's going to be a lot of use cases for it. Nobody understands it. That's the opportunity. And I think that this strategy is perfect for anybody out there who doesn't fully understand Bitcoin, but understands the concept of it and can take a very low risk, low stress strategy into Bitcoin. So that's what I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you share this video with your friends and family who are kind of close to Bitcoin. And I want to hear what you think. Number one, anything that's going to outperform Bitcoin. And number two, if you have any changes to the strategy, if I'm missing anything here. So that's it. Have yourselves an amazing day. Thanks again. I'm going to have all the information in the pinned comments for you and maybe the description if I remember. But the last thing I'll leave you with is we've been doing this for a while, but we're officially doing live streams every morning. And just because you haven't seen them doesn't mean they're not happening. So there's the way to access it. If you want to join us every day, 10 a.m. Eastern time, we got some amazing people in there. It's a lot of fun. We do it for about an hour and a half every morning, just talking about Bitcoin stuff, thought experiments, security info. We have a lot of fun. So consider stopping by if you want to. So that's it. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.